how old is the book of Tobit in the end? It was written around 300 BC, after the return from exile, but before the Maccabees, and about 300 to 400 years after the events it describes. It was probably written in Aramaic originally. It became a bestseller in Greek, and the Aramaic and Hebrew versions were only rediscovered with the Dead Sea Scrolls in 1947. So, now that we've heard all about the history of Tobit and the canon and the arguments over its historicity, the important thing is, how is God going to use this book to teach us? Let's find out. In chapter 1, Tobit describes how he has always followed God despite persecution. Before the exile, he would go by himself to Jerusalem to worship God in the temple, while his friends and family would all go on pilgrimage to the city of Dan to worship God in the form of the golden calf. It can be really hard to worship God when our friends and family don't. Tobit encourages us, accept no substitutes. After the exile, Tobit continued to eat according to the law of Moses, even though his friends and family gave up on it. Because of this, God blesses Tobit, and Tobit finds a good position in the Assyrian government as a purchasing agent for King Shalmaneser. Realize here just how similar this is to the opening of the book of Daniel. Tobit often traveled to Media on business for the king. He deposited great sums of money with his relative, Gabael. But when Sennacherib became king of Assyria, the roads became unsafe, and Tobit could no longer travel. He left a lot of money behind in Media. Then Tobit faced persecution. As you may recall, Sennacherib is the Assyrian king who lays siege to Jerusalem in the days of King Hezekiah and the prophet Isaiah. That's the time period we're in. Sennacherib's the one who's considered a type of the devil. After Sennacherib failed to conquer Jerusalem, he came home in a rage and began hunting down the Israelites in Nineveh, killing them and throwing their bodies over the wall. Tobit would secretly go out at night and give their bodies a proper burial. But someone informs on Tobit, and Tobit has to head for the hills. He loses his job, obviously. All his wealth and property are confiscated by the king, and he goes into hiding.
Bad thing.
Why was it a bad thing? Because kings in those days, up to and including Jesus on the cross, wanted to display the dead bodies of enemies of the state. You can't have them inside the walls because they'll spread disease, but if they're outside the walls, it shows what happens to people who don't obey the king. Less than 40 days later, though, just after Tobit goes into hiding, Sennacherib dies. He's assassinated by his son. Tobit returns home safely with his wife and son. He's a lot poorer, but it looks like he can get back to living a normal life. Then sometime later, he hears that an Israelite man has been killed in the street. Tobit goes out into the street, takes the dead body back to his own home, and buries the man that evening. His neighbors are sure he's just asking for trouble. What kind of a crazy man is this? But Tobit is sure God is going to protect him. God will stand up for him. And what happens that night? A bird poops in his eye. He's sleeping out in the courtyard, probably because he's still ritually unclean from burying the dead, and a bird poops in his eye. He can't get the bird poop out. Doctors' cures only make it worse until finally he goes blind. And Tobit is angry. He suffered so much for doing the right thing. He still believes in God. But where is God? Tobit's frustration comes to a head one day when he gets into a stupid fight with his wife. I love this scene. It is so true to life. Tobit can no longer work. He feels useless and disrespected. His wife, Anna, in the meantime, is working her fingers to the bone, cleaning, cooking, weaving cloth, selling it, earning enough money for them to barely scrape by. She feels exhausted and disrespected. One day, one of Anna's customers gives her a goat as a bonus. Tobit hears the goat bleating. He's scared that the goat is stolen. He insists Anna return it to its owner. He refuses to believe her, and he keeps yelling at her to give the goat back. She finally says, Oh, you make everyone think you're such a good man, but I know what you're really like, and storms off. I don't know why we're all laughing, except this is so totally true to life. Tobit starts sobbing. He prays to God, "Forgive my sins, forgive the sins of all of us exiles, and let me die. I can't bear any more insults. I've had enough." Then suddenly, the story jumps hundreds of miles away to Media. Sarah, a wealthy only daughter, is in a similar state of despair. Now, Sarah would seem to be a good catch. She's not only wealthy, but sensible, courageous, and very beautiful, according to the angel Raphael. But she can't keep a husband. She has been married 7 times, and each time the demon Asmodeus kills her husband off on her wedding night before they can go to bed together. Now, no man is ever going to come near her. People say she's cursed, or crazy, or both. One day, Sarah gets into a fight with her own maid and hits her. Her maid yells back, "Oh, you strangled your own husbands to death and now you want to get me too? Why don't you join them in hell?" Sarah runs off in tears and goes to look for a rope. Then she decides she can't dishonor her father by killing herself. So she lifts her hands and prays to God. "God, you know I am innocent. Let me die. I can't bear any more insults. I've had enough." Tobit has a reputation as a light and happy book. But really, it's the light, happy version of the book of Job. It asks the question, why do bad things happen to good people? Where is God when things go wrong and keep going wrong? The book immediately gives us the answer. Chapter 3, starting with verse 16. At that very time, the prayer of these 2 suppliants was heard in the glorious presence of Almighty God. So Raphael was sent to heal them both, to remove the cataracts from Tobit's eyes so that he might again see God's sunlight, and to marry Raguel's daughter Sarah to Tobit's son Tobiah, and then drive the wicked demon Asmodeus from her. For Tobiah had the right to claim her before any other who might wish to marry her. In the very moment that Tobit returned from the courtyard to his house, Raguel's daughter Sarah came downstairs from her room. So what's the answer? Where is God? God is right there. God immediately hears their prayers. God is immediately answering their prayers. God is saving them. God is healing them. God's angel is on the way. God has a plan for good, not for evil. But Tobit and Sarah don't know that yet. They get to trust God and wait for the light. And to them, it doesn't seem like it's coming quickly. We all have our own crosses to bear in life, where we get to trust God and wait for the light. There's one cross I don't usually talk about because there are people out there that have to deal with real depression so much more than I do. But I hope my story might strike a chord with someone. I have what's called PMDD. Every month, like clockwork, I might get not just cranky or weepy or pick irrational fights with my husband. I get the symptoms of major depression. The only difference is it never lasts long. It always goes away quickly within a few days. There's no cure. It's gotten much better over the last several years. I've learned to manage the symptoms with diet, supplements, and practicing gentleness. Gentleness toward myself, gentleness toward the people around me. Most months now, I get by okay. I generally don't fall into deep depressions anymore. 5 years ago, it was every month. But 2 days ago, I ran out of supplements, enjoyed a whole lot of junk food with the kids, had pizza and chocolate and Pepsi, and woke up yesterday morning with a fine case of moderate level depression. I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't read. I tried playing video games, but that just made my life seem really pointless. So I turned it off after 15 minutes. Twice my husband ordered me to go outside and take a walk, so I did. It looked kind of like this. And most of the day, though, I just lay in bed with that look on my face, staring at the wall, tears streaming down into my mouth, irrational negative thoughts trying to beat down the door of my brain. And every so often I would pray, God, help. It's a curious thing to realize that in a very real sense, the depression isn't me. It's not who I am. My brain is sometimes not well, but it will pass. It always passes. The only thing that really makes it bearable is knowing that it will pass, and in my case, it will pass fairly soon. I just have to trust God and wait for the light. But I had planned to spend yesterday preparing to teach this class, and that wasn't possible. I didn't know how this class was going to come together. Toward evening, it felt like the black cloud just might be starting to lift. I opened my Bible to Tobit, hoping to get something out of it. And what did I read? This. Tobit chapter 5, verse 10. This is when the angel Raphael, in disguise as a young man, first enters Tobit's house. When Raphael entered the house, Tobit greeted him first. Raphael said, "Hearty greetings to you." It's a pun in Greek. Hearty greetings also means joy. Joy to you. Tobit replied, "What joy is left for me anymore? Here I am, a blind man who cannot see God's sunlight, who must remain in darkness, like the dead who no longer see the light. Though alive, I am among the dead." Raphael said, "Take courage. God has healing in store for you. Take courage." There was my word for the day. I went, all right, I guess I'm still teaching this class tomorrow, God. I woke up this morning and went, God, must I really use this as a Tobit illustration? Opened up my Bible. Speak to the souls in prison. All right. And today, I still feel weak and shaky. I feel like I've been beat up, but I'm better. My brain is working again. I'm better enough to come here and say, I prayed and I got the same answer Tobit and Sarah did. God is right here. God is hearing my prayer. God is answering my prayer. God is saving me. God is healing me. God's angel is on the way. God has a plan for good, not for evil. Trust God and wait for the light. I have a hard time finding anything good in depression. But I do know it teaches me gentleness and patience. It also teaches me the importance of cultivating praise, joy, and gratitude whenever I can. God uses everything. Any thoughts?
Could it be spiritual?
Oh, there's absolutely a spiritual aspect to it.
He's attacking you?
Oh, yeah. And that's the thing. I don't want to say that, I don't want to conflate depression and spiritual attack.
Right.
And yet, the two absolutely can play off of each other. And I truly believe that. Yeah. I truly believe he let yesterday happen because he wanted me to tell a story. That is fairly common.
He let it happen. You didn't cause it.
God does not cause evil, but he allows evil to happen.
That's what I'm wondering.
Because in the middle of whatever we're going through, we usually don't see the plan.
Right.
Wouldn't it be nice if we just had a nice little, one of those nice little 2-verse scrolls come down into our life. Oh, but this is what's going to happen.
Right.
But no, and 12 hours was short. And again, I was praying, God, I need to teach tomorrow night. I better be out of bed by then. It could easily have lasted longer, but it was 12 hours. Thanks be to God.
That's interesting that you know it's going to end, but yet you still have that.
Yeah, I don't know exactly when it's going to end, and every hour is far too long. But just knowing that it's going to end, and it's going to end reasonably soon, that helps so much. It's got to be done. And it doesn't necessarily mean praying for hardships or praying for tragedies, but pray to be refined. Mm-hmm. Or pray that God would use the difficult parts in your life that you already have even, would use them to refine you. I know I've wasted a whole lot of suffering in my earlier life just by, shaking my fist through it. We don't need to shake our fist through it. we can learn from it.